And sometimes that even involves having women in the conversation, doesn't it? I mean, this is how...
Oh, don't stretch it too far, for God's sake.
I know.
Oh, my God. I call it in a box smelling your own farts, aren't you? Because actually you're breathing in the same air and it's so not healthy.
Welcome to episode 90 of Sharp Podcast, the personal growth podcast from SON Development, where we help you get better at the stuff you have to do so you can spend more time doing the things you want to do. So this episode is part 2 of my conversation with Lisa at the kitchen table. Last time, in episode 89, we covered loads of stuff. I won't list it here, but if you haven't yet listened, it might be worth going back and listening to that first, and then come back here, ready to listen to the second half of the conversation. This episode is where we pick up the conversation where we left off last time, and we started to talk about Lisa's authentic leadership secrets and how you can get great results without having to be a dick. We talk about the stories we tell ourselves, the power of a weekly review, how authenticity and vulnerability are two sides of the same coin. We discuss how working in unhealthy air causes stagnant thinking. I don't want to say the word farts again, but it is in the podcast. We talk about having the freedom to fail and how innovation can only come if there is freedom to fail. The power of diversity, how respect and authenticity can support each other. We cover selling skills. We give away some tips there. The limitations of keeping your work person separate from your person. And then we talk about our approach to social media and how we keep that authentic message going. Oh, and finally, there's a bit of a reference to Claire and why Lisa thinks it's life-changing both personally and professionally. So enough rabbiting, let's get on with part 2 of the conversation. That point you made about the spotlight effect is super powerful because, you know, we are the stories that we tell ourselves, and our perception of ourselves is, frankly, it is a story.
Yeah.
You get to choose what the ingredients are in that story.
Mm-hmm.
And if you believe that everyone that looks at you is thinking, you know, how stupid are they? How awful are they? How bad are they? Well, surprise, surprise, that's the story you're filling that bucket with, and that becomes your truth.
Yeah.
If you are telling yourself that people are looking at you and thinking, "God, flipping it, you know, they're good, they're doing a great job," or whatever, that's your bucket. The reality is, most people are looking at you and thinking about themselves because that's what's actually going on. Most people aren't forming a judgment about you one way or the other. So I find that to be quite freeing because you might as well then say, well, in that case, then I'm just going to decide for myself whether I'm any good or not.
Yeah.
And there's something else you do about each week documenting 1 or 2 things that you've done well or that have...
Oh, yeah, I didn't talk about that, did I? So I have my little book on my desk, and every week when I'm doing my weekly review, I fill that out. And, you know, some weeks there's only a couple of things because I might be doing something really chunky. But it's just about making sure that I'm really, and it's a bit like journaling, isn't it? But writing down the things that I've achieved in that week or the things that I know have gone really well or had an impact. So that is really helpful at so many different levels at going back and reading through it. It helps with my review process at work, monthly, quarterly, you know, when I'm doing my review with my boss, kind of talking about what I've been up to and where I've had those wins.
Yeah. And people that know me who see what I put out know I do the same thing. You know, on a Saturday morning, I'll always put a post out on LinkedIn, which is a summary of what's gone on in my week. And it tends to be featuring the people who've inspired me or the people who, you know, I've really enjoyed being with. That's what I like to celebrate. There might be 1 or 2 things that I think I've done that are successful. But to be honest with you, my achievements, I do write them down, but that's private, that's personal. What I publicly celebrate is the other people that have been part of that. You said you talked earlier about the connection between this sort of how you feel about yourself and authenticity, and the importance of authenticity. What do you mean by authenticity? I know what I mean by it, Lisa. What do you mean?
Being your true self. And I think that certainly kind of going through my career, there have definitely been times where I haven't felt able to be who I am because you're trying to fit a mold. Say what I really think because you're worried that that's going to impact your credibility or your relationships. But actually, I think as you get older and have experienced more, you've been around the block a little bit, you understand how important, especially as a leader, that authenticity is. And I get a lot of feedback from my teams around the value to them of me being authentic, because that role models and supports other people being able to be themselves. It supports an open and honest level of dialogue so everyone feels able to talk about what they think, talk about how they feel. And that creates an environment where we're always looking to get better. And that continuous improvement and that strive to get better helps to support good performance results, doesn't it? So, and it's about engagement. It's about feeling a part of something. It's about having purpose, and all of that for me comes from that level of authenticity as a leader,
and vulnerability, because that's a part of it, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. That ability to say, I get things wrong sometimes, and I might sometimes say the wrong thing, but that's part of my continuous development and me trying to get better. But also kind of that ability for people to feel comfortable asking questions, being curious, because I think that really supports and helps that great innovation and creativity within a workplace or within a team.
Well, people can only innovate if they know it's okay to fail, can't they? Because you're never going to try anything new. You're never going to try and experiment if you're constantly scared that someone's going to criticize you for not being successful at what you do. You'll stick with the safe stuff. You'll stick with the tried and tested stuff.
You just implement, don't you? You're just waiting to be told what to do. Which is a real stale, stagnant place to be, I think.
And the other thing that it's like in that Lencioni's 5 dysfunctions of a team, isn't it? If you have that foundation of trust where you as the leader can be authentic, you can be vulnerable, you can get things wrong, then your team feel like, well, actually, then maybe it's okay for us to be authentic, vulnerable, get things wrong. And that then means actually they can then start to challenge each other without taking it personally, without getting upset or emotional. But actually, it's okay for us to challenge because we trust each other.
And that we're there to support each other. Oh, nice. It's a very noisy motorbike. But it's being able to support each other as well in the right way when things aren't great.
Yes.
Because actually you'll get to the solution or the positive bit where things are great so much quicker if there's that openness to be able to say, this is a bit shit and it doesn't feel right.
But that success comes from having a diverse range of opinions where people can challenge each other, and it's okay to challenge each other and disagree because everyone's got the same bigger goal. Whereas the converse of that is people never challenge each other because what they're trying to do all the time is just keep the atmosphere okay and just keep the boss happy and just get away with what I can get away with. And that's really stagnant.
Even worse, Steve, that actually everyone in that room has the same opinion and the same perspective and the same background and experience. So actually you haven't got the ability or the experiences to be able to challenge in a way that encompasses all of the kind of growth potential.
And sometimes that even involves having women in the conversation, doesn't it? I mean, this is how...
Oh, don't stretch it too far, for God's sake.
I know.
Oh, my God. I call it in a box smelling your own farts, aren't you? Because actually you're breathing in the same air and it's so not healthy.
Well, and this, we joke about it, but... you did a podcast, didn't you, for International Women's Day, an internal podcast?
Yeah, an internal one. It's not something that anyone outside of the business will be able to listen to.
But it's an interesting debate at the moment, isn't it, about the concept of International Women's Day and some of the, frankly, cringeworthy stuff you see out there. Well done.
Yeah, well done, little lady.
I've got a woman in my business. Look at me giving her some flowers.
Doing a job that a man used to do. Wow. And last year I got very angry, I think, about some of that stuff that you've just talked about.
You did a northern accent then?
Did I?
Yeah, you went stuff.
Oh, that's because I've been spending too long with Natalie. This year, I felt really conflicted because actually there was a lot more narrative being called out about that,
right,
rather than it just being, oh, it's all part of the education, things will get better. Actually, this year there was a lot more, no, that's wrong, that's inappropriate, that's not what it's about. But then I'm frustrated by the pace at which things are changing, the pace at which our voice is being able to influence. And I got a little bit riled up about it this year, didn't I, Steve?
And I think, that particular challenge, and the same applies to gender, sexuality, all of those things, that closed-minded thinking that there is an ideal kind of person that will be successful in this role. So if I have 10 of those same kinds of people, and actually it doesn't matter whether they're 10 white middle-aged women, it doesn't matter whether they're 10 black young guys. The point is that if everybody is the same, you're going to get limited, stagnant thinking. What you need is a diversity and not an assumption that only one kind of person is going to do the best job there. That diversity where that. And some of the stuff, I mean, I even today online, I've seen my old colleague Rupert post something about there was a awful video that's going around at the moment about some kids in the street, and the scourge of racism still being loud and clear in businesses, in boards, and these, I don't know figures to hand, but it's those big headline figures that never seem to change. Boards are made up of, well, frankly, people that look like me, white middle-aged blokes, and that lack of diversity in those senior levels, and the kind of the undercurrent of the stuff that's in the news at the moment about the Tory party's sponsor and all that stuff that's going around.
But I think there's some real sound, justifiable reasons as to why, when women get to my age, I'm 52 this year, actually there's a slowdown of how your career has progressed, because for a lot of women, they'll have taken time out to have children, care for family, do whatever, which has meant that the pace hasn't been the same as with your male counterparts. Now, we both know that ideally you'd want to see that there's an equal sharing of that responsibility, but I think we've got a long way to go. What concerns me is knowing that that's the case, that businesses aren't thinking about how they can really counteract that impact and do something differently. So what does it look like for women coming back to work after they've had children? How do you accelerate their experiences or their learning to mean that they're able to catch up to their male counterparts, to then facilitate there being more C-suite execs in the boardroom? Like, why aren't businesses doing something? And I'm sure some businesses are, and I probably need to do a bit more research on that to try and maybe influence some of that in my own business. But it's hard.
Enough
really
businesses
hard.
are not. It's obvious. Enough businesses are not. And also, I think one of the factors there is that not just at a senior level, but also at a very junior level, it's the lack of desire to call out the bad stuff. When people do, and we're talking about microaggressions, and some people dismiss it because they think, it's political correctness and nanny states telling us what to say. The bottom line is, if someone says something awful, whether it's about race, gender, ethnicity, sexuality, it's the right thing to do, to call it out, and it's the right thing to do to challenge it. Because if we don't do that, then what happens is that people just go along thinking that's okay. The impact they have on other people is to keep those other people, keep those people in their lane. You mustn't step outside of where I perceive you belong. And it's that everyday language. And I've learned so much, and particularly sticking with International Women's Day. And I think I put something about this last year about not realizing what you say. So it's like calling women bossy or stroppy, for example. That actually you wouldn't say that to a guy, or many people wouldn't say that to a guy. They'd call him assertive and demanding. And it's recognizing in yourself that some of that stuff you say, no malice. You haven't got bad intent, but you're not realising that what you say is continuing to perpetuate that. Keep them limited. Keep that group of people in a slightly less powerful position.
There is a bit of education, isn't there? Because it's understanding those societal norms that still exist around the male bias. So, you know, when you start to understand the impact of not having women in STEM businesses or not having women in, you know, architecture or enough women in architecture. And, you know, we saw the impact of that when we went to a concert the other week, didn't we?
Did.
The cues for the loos.
We did.
So I think there's a lot of that stuff, or the algorithms that are impacting our daily lives, or the fact that I'm more likely to be injured in a car crash just because of crash dummies being based on average male forms, you know, all of that stuff. People, you know, a lot of people, if they're not seeking to establish the why or that it is still going on, just don't know about it.
Yes.
So there is a lot of education. But going back to what you were saying about, you know, the microaggressions or keeping people in their for me, it's broader, it's bigger, it's just about respect, and actually respect of everyone as an individual. And that for me links back to the authenticity piece. So I think there's a lot of that links back round together, that just hopefully gives all of us as individuals and human beings, but also as leaders, the impetus to just build an environment full of respect.
Yeah. And that respect is fundamental, isn't it? You know, we would probably describe ourselves as respectful, tolerant people who look at people as individuals and try to identify what that person is about as an individual without bringing in categorization or whatever. Now, obviously, we're human beings. We have stereotypes. We get it wrong. We make mistakes. You know, we're not setting ourselves up as being better than other people. But I think if you've got a fundamental desire to want to improve your skills in that area, you know, to be more tolerant, to be more respectful, I personally think that a key area is about curiosity and actually being genuinely interested in other people. We talk about this in the sales training stuff we do. We talk about it in the leadership stuff we do. If you're genuinely interested in people and you genuinely want to find out about people, then you're in a much better position to have that person be able to talk with confidence about themselves because you are interested.
Yeah.
And B, your life will be better. And
richer.
I honestly, I cringe. I go into some of these networking things and these people come in and they've got a rehearsed script that they're going to tell you all of this is me and this is my business and this is what I do. And it's such hard work.
Does anyone ever ask you about you?
No, not very often.
It's really interesting, isn't it? So
that's untrue, actually. They do. It does happen occasionally, but it's the minority.
Yeah.
And I work quite hard when I talk to people to find out about them because I am, you know, I've got my dad's, bless him, I've got his characteristic there. I do want to find out about people. I am interested in them genuinely, and I ask lots of questions. But I think sometimes people don't always necessarily reciprocate.
Yeah. And like genuinely, I think that's probably the thing that first attracted me to you. What, that
I asked you a question?
No, that you asked, like you were genuinely interested in me. Top dating tips here. But
okay.
It is that relationship build, isn't it? And actually, you talked about sales training. Part of the key part to any sales training is that curiosity and finding out about and asking questions because you're forming a relationship.
Yes.
And it's so powerful in so many different parts of our lives, isn't it? If only more people would do it.
Well, and you know, we're in the meerkat selling stuff that we do, Nick's meerkat model. You know, we have to continually refresh that to keep it up to date. But the fundamentals do not change. You know, whether you're doing it on a tablet, whether you're doing it on a chat box or by email or in person, finding out about the other person, you know, what their values are, what matters to them, what they really want. We said the other day, didn't we? It's like the old I don't want a 10 mil drill bit. I want a 10 mil hole. You know, actually, what does a person want to achieve? And you've got to ask questions to find that, and you've got to find out about them. And we know the most successful salespeople are the ones who are genuinely interested. And coming back to LinkedIn and the profile, for me, where I've had the most success is actually about connecting with people and talking to them. It's not about what I transmit. It's not about the posts I put up, but actually it's about connecting with people and engaging with them. That's where I've formed the best relationships with people, and that's why I've formed the strongest parts of my network, because I want to find out about them.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt your listening, but I just wanted to jump in with a quick message. If you've listened to Sharp Podcast for a few years, you might be wondering why we've been mentioning SON development and what that's all about. Are they a sponsor? Is it a house building company? Well, no. You see, we've been making Sharp Podcast since 2017, and it's always been our aim to give you free resource that helps you get better at the things that matter to you, and we're not planning to change that. But SON Development is the training company that I founded in 2021 to help organisations, teams and individuals improve performance and make a real difference to their working lives. We run workshops, we do consultation, and we provide digital resource about leadership, coaching, sales, customer service, planning and prioritisation, and loads more stuff. So if you're a business or a team leader and you're frustrated that your training isn't making a real difference, give us a shout. You can find out more about what we do at sondevelopment.com, and of course there's a link in the show notes. But if you prefer to get your development free of charge with Sharp Podcast, would you do us a favour and just make a quick note now to share this episode or any that you really like with your friends, family, colleagues, anyone who you think it could help. We'd really appreciate it. End of interruption, back to the episode. God blimey. So hang on, we went from our vision to branding, and then we got into quite a heavy, deep conversation, but one that needs to be had about authenticity and diversity and inclusion and all those sorts of stuff and so on. And I was having this conversation with Jodie the other day about your persona you put up on LinkedIn. You know, if you're self-employed, if you work for yourself, I am my brand. I'm indistinguishable from it. You know, SON Development, SON stands for Steve O'Neill, just in case you didn't know. Did you know that?
I'm glad you clarified that. Thank you.
The brand is me. I am the brand. They're not separate things. And this idea of work-life balance and that, people working hard to completely separate the work person from the person is nonsense.
Doesn't work, does it?
Now, there is merit in identifying work behaviours and work actions.
And barriers as well.
Yeah, so having a boundary around those things.
Not barrier,
absolutely.
sorry, boundary.
Absolutely have a boundary around those things. But that's different between you being a different person.
Yes.
And I think that's what we've learned about with the LinkedIn stuff. So many people on LinkedIn, they define themselves as their job title. I am a divisional director. I am a sales manager. I am a CEO. But you're so much more than that. You're not just the job. So, decide what you are and call yourself what you are. And all of my... all of the stuff I put out on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, it's a mixture of work stuff. I mean, the LinkedIn stuff tends to be a bit more worky than some of the personal stuff. I don't often take pictures of Romeo and put him on LinkedIn. Sometimes I do.
Shame on you.
That's more Instagram. But yeah, I think coming back to your point about being authentic, if we can just actually be ourselves and be honest about ourselves, if you're employed or self-employed, you're doing a job because you're earning money for it, and there's a reason why you're doing that. And it's okay for us to be us in that environment and bring all of the idiosyncrasies and challenges we have and the things we're not quite so good at and the mistakes we've made.
Just makes us real.
Yeah, it's okay to bring those along, and and we don't have to pretend to be this perfect, immaculate fiction that so many people, we should have got a computer open and scrolled through some profiles and called some of this stuff out.
No.
Gosh, we have been going for ages. We have had a lot of stuff to talk about. We have talked about a lot. We've talked about our plan. We're doing a sort of it's coming to the end of March, so we've had a look at what we've planned, and we're happy with.
Yeah, we've got loads done.
Yeah,
it's been good.
Yeah, it's
good first quarter.
A good first quarter. Yeah, the metrics and the KPIs are all but it feels good, and that's what matters.
I just want to. Are you doing the review to me, and will you be wearing a pinstripe suit?
You're not going to tell the listeners I'm currently wearing my pinstripe suit, are you?
No, you're not.
Oh.
I'm just saying in our quarterly business review,
I thought we were pretending that I was. I thought it was going to be like a reveal.
No.
No, I don't have a pinstripe suit. I met you in a pinstripe suit.
You did.
But I don't have a pinstripe suit. In fact, I put a suit on a little while ago, and it was clear that I don't wear a suit very often. And I know we keep banging on about this course of mine. I've got a course. You know I've got a course?
Really?
Yeah, I've got a course.
Not that it's been like the overriding focus of our lives for how long now?
Can you please tell the listener why that's been the overriding focus?
Because it's so phenomenal, that's why.
Oh, no, sorry, that wasn't what I meant. What I meant was...
Well, I'm going to say it anyway, because I was really lucky to kind of be number 2 trial person. So you obviously set it up and worked with it and then showed me, and I set it up, and it's a system that I now use. And it, like, all joking aside, it was life-changing. It has enabled me to manage my work and personal life in a way that just helps on so many levels. It's difficult to put it into words. I can only say it was life-changing.
Well, and what I'm reassured by is that everybody who does it is saying the same thing. And the reason why it's become all consuming, because I've worked really hard at it.
Yes.
And I've worked hard to make it good. But what people are investing in when they buy the course is they're not buying an online course. I think this is the mistake some people make. It's like when you buy a book, all books should be the same price because I'm buying a book. Well, you're not. Some books are 200 quid because the content in that book is valuable, and someone is putting into print what they've learned over 25 years, and where they've had results and success, and helping you achieve that. And that's kind of what I've done. I've put over the last, I think I said it's about 12 years of what I've learned about productivity and time management, all that kind of stuff. What works, what doesn't work. So what you're investing in when you get this course, it's not just a framework that ticks boxes. It's actually a way of thinking. It's a way of acting and behaving. And that's, yes, there is a cost to it. And you do need to invest some time and focus to get the results. But the reassuring thing is, very early days, that lots of people are getting the same results and they're having a similar experience to you. So, of course, I'm going to put a link to the course in the show notes, and I will shout about it because I'm proud of it. And I think
you should be.
I think it's great. For me, this is actually the kind of what I love most about what I get to do at the moment is genuinely helping people feel better, get better at their stuff, and that seems to be having an impact.
Being the best version of them.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's just end.
I'm worn out.
We haven't planned an end, have we?
No, we haven't. So I think...
so let's just review. Yes, a quarterly plan and vision.
As you just said, I think we've covered an awful lot of stuff. Hopefully, your listeners will have enjoyed the diversity. Our listeners will have enjoyed the diversity of it. And I guess we'd like to know, wouldn't we, if people want more of this stuff.
Yeah. And I for those of you who listen to the podcast, you'll notice over the last few months that I've started to sort of merge the SON development and the Sharp podcast. And to be honest with you, it seems silly to keep those two things separate. So the podcast is much more about kind of helping people get better at what they do. That's never going to change. We're never going to stop doing that. The podcast is always going to be free. We're never going to charge for the podcast. But some of the content might be about some of what you and I do as a day job. For those people that are inspired by you and want to find out more about what you do, I'll put your LinkedIn contact details and all that kind of stuff, and your home phone number and our home address in the show notes, and your car registration. But I'll put the contact details there because it would be great to connect with people. Not because we want thousands of listeners. I don't want thousands of listeners. What I want is, my ideal is to have a couple of hundred people that we connect with regularly, that we contact regularly, that we can share stuff with. That's genuinely what we want. So for those of you out there who want to connect with Lisa or me and just talk about stuff, not to buy things off us or whatever, but just to talk about stuff and so on. All the contact details are in there. Lisa's doing an amazing job at the moment at that branding piece and that kind of. No, and I am genuinely inspired by what you do, and and for me, I get excited to see when you have all of that interaction and all of those people, complimenting you and commenting on what you do. I think it's awesome. I think you're awesome.
Thank you.
I shall say that publicly. If you want to connect with us, find the links, talk to us, all that kind of stuff. Now, the fridge has been off for an hour.
Yeah, we need to switch it back on, mate. And the water fountain for the cat.
It was making a lot of noise. They were both making a lot of noise. And, I care about your ears, dear listener. So we'll go and switch the fridge on now and have a cup of tea or something. But hopefully you found this useful. Hopefully you found it interesting. I'll put links in the show notes to some of the stuff that we've talked about and some of the resource we use. And we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear what you do. So what did you think? I mean, first of all, if you've made it all the way to this bit, well done and thank you. It was a bit of a ramble, wasn't it? But like we said, it wasn't about just telling you what we think. We'd love to get in contact with you and find out what you think. So in the show notes, there's a link to Lisa's LinkedIn profile and a link to my LinkedIn profile and some of the other social media places we're on as well. And we'd love you to connect, join up with us, message us and tell us what you thought. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Can you relate to being made to smell your own farts? Sorry about that bit. But we really, really do want to hear from you, and we'd love to connect, grow our network and find out about you, your world, and whether there are things that you can relate to. We look forward to hearing from you. In the meantime, take care. See you later. Thank you ever so much for listening. Hey!
We're done.
Let's do kitchen table again sometime soon.
Let's.
Thanks very much.
Bye.
Bye.